Hey there, this is Daftatt. This is a tutorial on using and understanding the 22 frames of Squirtle's turnaround animation called Shellshift to move into his various movement options. Okay, so I'm on debug mode right here. I have my ACD diamond on so I can just make note of his positioning. It'll probably come into more effect later on, but you'll see it right off the bat here on frame 17 of Shellshift. Freeze frame, and right there is our starting point. So right now I'm in the run animation, and I'm going to, given that I'm running left, I'm going to input right, of course, to start the turnaround animation, shell shift. I'm going to be calling it shell shift from now on out. So I'm going to be holding right, and this right here is the first frame of shell shift. Important as a window of execution for sling jump, we'll touch on that later. If I advance, by the way, I will be continually holding shell shift for the full length shell shift, all 22 frames. You can get out of shell shift earlier, and I'll point out when. Actually, all frames of shell shift are jump cancelable, but they're cancelable by other actions prior to frame 22. So, frame 2 of shell shift, and we'll actually advance forward to frame 9. This is the first hitbox frame of shell shift, and it will last 3 more frames after this one to frame 12. This is the last hitbox frame shell shift. If I were to stop holding the shell shift input, which is right on the control stick at this point, then after this, we would enter frame 13, 14, and given that I have stopped holding the input, on frame 15, I would exit shell shift. If between frame 15 and frame 22, I stop at any point holding the shell shift animation, or the shell shift input, the animation will stop and he will exit the move. Okay, so frame 15, 16, 17. 17, important frame for practicing and visual cue positioning. Frame 17 is always the exact position that you started on shell shift. If you notice, we're on the origin line here. So basically, later on, if you look at the supplementary infographics that I provided you with, by the way, you definitely are going to want to look at those. If you look at all the shell shift frames, frame 17 is within the hydro pivot and hydro grab window. And so basically, if you're experiencing longer or shorter hydro planes or hydro grabs, you can look as a cue of where you started and know that's frame 17 and determine if you're inputting too soon or too late, depending on the length of hydro plane that you want. Okay, moving on to frame 18, frame 19, and then I'm going to start coming out of the shell in frame 20. But if I continue to hold the input, the animation will still last for 2 more frames. So I'll hold the shield to show you the first actual frame out right there. So shell shift lasts a total of 22 frames. You're going to want to bring up the infographic for sure at this point. Alright, as 2 things we're going to cover in this video. This is a movement tutorial. So Squirtle has excellent movement. He's probably the best in the game if fully utilized. He is effectively Luigi on the ground with his wave dash, and Captain Falcon in the air. A lot of people don't really realize how quickly Squirtle can move through the air, akin to Captain Falcon. But we're going to cover it right now on our first topic, the sling jump. Alright, if you look at the infographic, breaking down the shell shift frames, on the first bit you'll see in orange the sling jump window, and if you notice it decreases in distance that you'll go the later you cancel shell shift with a jump. Sling jump is effectively Squirtle's reverse aerial rush, although because of shell shift and those little quirks, it has a bit more depth to how you can use it. So right now I'm on the origin line, dashing forward, I'll hold left. There I'm on frame 1 of shell shift. To get a perfect sling jump, you're going to want to input jump on this frame. So holding jump right now, I'll advance to frame. And we see we are now in jump squat. Squirtle's jump squat lasts 4 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to jump in the air now. And I'll fast forward a little bit to show you how far he can go in one short hop. Alright, there's his land. And there we go. Anyway, so that's really far. That's farther than Captain Falcon can go. That's farther than Ike can quick draw cancel. That is, like, think of fast characters. Their short hop does not travel that distance. Captain Falcon's actually very close, but no cigar. So Squirtle does have the longest short hop. As far as just being able to move around the stage extremely well. Like, if you look in the infographic, you'll see that, like, frame 2 is 96% the length, frame 3 is 84% the length, 4 is 72, and frame 5 is 68%. After frame 5, the window effectively closes. Here, I'll do the shortest sling jump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm entering jump. 4 angle jump squat. And he travels, you know, it ain't bad. It's alright. It's still farther than his normal short hop. Although, if I was holding forward in the air, I think I would go a little further, just because Squirtle has excellent airspeed. Yeah. But, like I said, still shorter than his normal short hop out of run, which is 58% the distance of a frame 1 sling jump. So that's sling jump, and let's see. How do you practice sling jump? Alright, so given that sling jump is a pretty tight frame window, I mean, it's not like you don't have to have amazing tech skill to do it, but you're definitely going to need to practice it. The best place, in my opinion, to practice sling jump is PS2. So first off, here's why. These two platforms, Squirtle is a normal run jump. Between the two, he'll never make it. And when I say run and jump, I mean short hop, of course. But he can sling jump, short hop between the two, if you get the frame timing right. And it's a great way to tell if you're doing it fast enough, inputting jump quickly enough. So like right there, I'm getting it. It's actually pretty hard to do consistently. Like, you'll often mess up. You'll probably just enter something besides Shellshift. That's usually how you mess up. But if you like, for instance, right there, if I purposely input jump late in Shellshift, that was probably frame 4, and I didn't make the gap. So that's a great way to tell if you're getting good length sling jumps. I think it's frame 1 and 2 that you want to hit to make the gap. So another note as far as inputting sling jump is there are actually 2 ways to input sling jump, or really if you continue to hold the control stick after you jump, you'll do a separate animation. I'll show you. So frame 1, I'm not going to hold any direction as I go into sling jump. And what you'll see Squirtle does a forward roll in the air. Okay, now, if I hold left, the direction I'm jumping, Squirtle will do a backwards roll in the air. So basically, all this is, as far as distinction between the two, forward roll, backwards roll, the only difference is how they're input. And basically, you'll want to practice the backwards roll one, because the forward roll is basically you're moving your thumb from the control stick, allowing it to go to neutral so you don't input a direction and roll. And the backwards roll is keeping your thumb on the control stick to move back across the neutral position of the control stick and input the direction you're jumping to back roll. It's just a better practice to know how to do the back roll sling jump consistently, because you can do both. I mean, if you want to look fancy and do different things, you can do both, but as far as for other techs like wave slinging, it's way more important to know how to keep your thumb on the control stick effectively. Normal sling jumps, or when first people learn sling jumps, a lot of times they flick the control stick. I can't even do it. Okay, there. Yeah, they flick the control stick to allow them I don't know why they put the control stick actually, but it's a lot of the way that people sling jump nowadays, and it's wrong. Don't ever move your thumb off the control stick, or else you really can't do anything in the air. I mean, if you can do the forward roll without moving your thumb off the control stick, that's good, but just keep in mind, as far as it's a pivotal point for knowing how to sling jump, learn how to do the back roll, and it will make things so much easier later on. Alright, moving on. Open back up your little infographic. In green, also at the beginning of Shellshift, you'll see the shell stall window. I'm not going to cover a lot of how the shell stall works. I don't use it. I can see theoretical uses for it. I don't know. I don't think it's super important, but it does kind of illustrate how Shellshift as a move works. So right here, I'm going to use the center line as the origin line. If I input right, I'll start Shellshift. There's frame 1 of Shellshift. But if I stop holding right, as in I stop holding Shellshift, what Squirtle is going to do is he's going to enter a shell stall. If I advance, so right here, here's the first frame of this hitbox, frame 9, frame 11, 12, sorry, 10, 11, 12, here's the last frame. The shell stall window, or the shell stall begins right now. So for 42 more frames, I'm going to do nothing. I don't want to fast forward through all the frames, but you can see what happened. That's called a shell stall. Basically, if you let go of the shell shift input before frame 7, you'll do a little stall. If you let go on frame 6, it's basically a 5-frame stall, which is equivalently a 3-frame stall because you have 2 frames of end lag after the shell shift hitbox is anyway. But here, let me do a frame. Let's do a frame 4 shell shift. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm letting go of right on my control stick, and okay. First frame of shell stall begins, and it was shorter. It was 19 frames as opposed to 42. If you really want to practice getting frame timing for shell stall, go ahead. Probably not useful, but important to note, it's just a little quirk along with the many others that Shellshift has. Okay, frame 9s through 12 of Shellshift have the hitboxes out, and this used to be easier to do in 3.0 because Shellshift lasted longer and was a bigger hitbox, but it's still very possible in 3.5, and that is using the fact that you can jump cancel on any frame of Shellshift. Jump canceling during the hitboxes into grab, and basically shell shifting into opponent and then grabbing them. I'm just going to show it off really quick. Although I can't grab sand, bro. You'll get the point. So, do dash forward, shell shift. Oops, sorry. Shell shift. Boom. Frame 9. Hitbox comes out. Since this is going to send him basically the direction that I'm going. It's going to like pull him back with me. So I'm going to cancel frame 9 with jump, and I'm going to cancel the next frame of jump with grab, and then the Squirtle's going to take 7 frames to throw this grab, and right there you see if sandbag was grabbable, I would have grabbed it. And that is basically how shell shift into grab works. Okay, one of probably the most versatile thing you can do outside of movement with shell shift is hydro grab. And I know we just showed shell shift grab. That is not what hydro grab is. They can overlap though, because hydro grab, as far as frames, the frame window for it starts on frame 11. If you look at the infographic, it starts on frame 11, and in my example prior, I did shell shift grab on frame 9. So there are 2 frames that you could shell shift into grab that wouldn't be hydro grabs because they wouldn't be hydroplaning you forward during your jump squat. Well, actually, the jump squat, when canceled by grab, gives the grab animation its momentum, and he just flies forward. So right now, I'm going to do a frame 11 hydro grab, which is the first frame that really does anything. Here's my origin, and I'll just move 9, 10, and now I'm going to input jump, and I'm want to go as far forward as I can just for the purpose of demonstration. So I'm going to actually wait till the last possible frame of his jump squat. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to enter grab on frame 4 before he leaves the ground. And then I'm going to run forward, and you can see that Squirtle covers, here, last frame right there. Squirtle covers about, you know, the 0.5 to 1.5 as far as marks to the right of the origin here. And as we advance through, I'm not going to do all of them, they're all on the infographic though. I made a composite image of all of the grab hitboxes up to frame 20, or yeah, frame 19, no, frame 20. Right, yeah, frame 20 is the farthest you can go in a hydro grab. I'll just show that up really quick. So, okay, this is frame 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, yeah, Squirtle moves pretty damn far with a maximum hydro grab. Basically, all the frames in between 11 and 20 will give you different ranges between coverage as far as your grab box between where you first saw, which was about here, and the last one, which was like here. So I guess one quirk is that frame 14 actually sends you only slightly farther than canceling on frame 11, and canceling on frame 12 and frame 13 both send you farther than if you cancel on frame 14. Yeah, that's just a quirk. It's noted on the infographic, so yeah. So a really great thing you can do with the fact that you can act out of shell shift on frame 15 is you can just dash back into the direction that you were shell shifting as such. And kind of just continuously shell shift, which gives you all your hydroplaning, your sling jump options, hydro grab options in like this little stationary little box, and also it throws out a hitbox continuously. So it's very dangerous to approach Squirtle if he's quick shifting. Basically, to explain quick shifting a little bit, frame scale or level. So that's close to origin. We'll call that middle line origin. I'm going to hold right, there's my shell shift. I'm going to move forward to frame 9 through 12, now I'm on 13, 14, and then the next frame is the first frame that I can cancel shell shift with anything. So I'm going to dash. I'm going to dash left back into shell shift, like this. And then when I land, I'm going to hold back, and he's going to re-enter his shell shift. And then on frame 15, I'm going to do it again and re-enter shell shift, and again. And you can, like, if you're doing it frame perfectly, you're like staying in the tightest possible space and not moving at all, which is cool. And then you can do it on later frames and you'll pull back further. Like here, I'll move around while quick shifting, move forward, and I'll move. Sometimes if you try and move too far back, you might moonwalk. But you can move either direction while still quick shifting, depending on when you cancel and how quickly you enter shell shift out of your dash. Yeah, pretty much. But basically imagine Squirtle's just at one stage, he's just in this tight little ball, you can't really hit it, constantly moving. And they're like, oh, Mark runs in, and he's like, oh, maybe Squirtle's gonna hit me. And he forward airs, and he lands, and the Squirtle hydro grabs and punishes his landing lag. Basically, quick shifts is just a really, it's just a, I don't know, there's a ton of options out of it, and it's a great little neutral game thing, it's a great mind game. It's one of Squirtle's best mind games, in fact, and I definitely encourage you to practice it, and practice hitting all of his execution windows out of it. And if he really wants, like if they just come for him out of it, he can just use the beginning frames of shell shift to sling jump away. So there you go. Alright, the last thing we have to talk about that's directly branching off of shell shift is hydroplaning. And the way most people got introduced to hydroplaning back in like 3.02 was they were shell shifting, then hit the C stick, and somehow all of a sudden they screamed across the stage while throwing out So, like, usually F smash. Like, it's still a pretty good C-stick hydroplane. That's pretty far as slides go. It's nowhere near what it was in 3.0. It got pretty nerfed in 3.5, but all in all, it doesn't really matter, because the best way to hydroplane is not that way. It is through what's called empty hydroplaning. There are two types of empty hydroplaning. One is hydrocrawl. I don't recommend it. It's very difficult, a lot more complicated than hydropivot, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So basically, if you look at your infographic on frame 15 of the Shellshift, the hydro pivot window opens up, or basically the hydroplaning window. So on frame 15 is the first frame that you can just cancel Shellshift with really whatever you want. It's right after the 2 frames of M-lag, which are right after the 4 frames of hitboxes being out. Probably the best thing you can cancel it with, though, is pivot, because pivot will retain all your momentum coming out of hydroplaning, allow you to slide really far, and because pivot can be canceled into any move, you effectively can hydroplane into any move, on the ground, that is. So let's look at that. Right now, I'm on frame 13. I'll advance to frame 14, and then I'm going to input pivot on frame 15, which is the first possible frame to hydroplane. So holding left for only 1 frame, that's a pivot. You hold left longer, don't. Squirtle's gonna pivot, and I can, on any of these frames, I could input any move, and it would, he would immediately start that move. It's just I'm gonna let him slide. So that's the, I'm not sure if it's the shortest hydroplane, but that's the first frame that you can hydroplane. The maximum hydroplane length is when you use frame 19, and I'll show you how far that looks. And I'll cancel it. Well, actually, I'll just show you the normal one. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, let it go. He goes pretty far. Because, like I said, they're really with pivot, you can cancel anything you want. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, pivot. And then I'm going to down smash. Squirtle is going to slide really far, while at the same time down smashing. Like, if you made a note of actually how much area those hitboxes as they came out covered, it was a lot. So hydroplaning, extremely useful technique. Lets you just fly across the stage with hitboxes out, doing whatever move you want. People are like, sometimes, why don't you use wave dash into it? Well, wave dash has a bunch of lag when you start a move, and it basically prevents you from immediately starting a move, and you'll have slowed down a lot in your slide by the time you actually get the move out. A good example of that is one of my favorite hydro pivots, which is hydro shield, where instead of down smashing, I would input shield, and Squirtle just flies across the stage with his shield out immediately. So go to frame 19, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and pivot. Well, I missed it, but I could have held shield immediately, but I'll just hold it now. He's going to slide really far in his shield, and it's immediately and way farther as a slide than just wave dashing in the shield, although wave dashing in the shield is still great. This is just a good option coming out of Shellshift that you could do. For instance, if the opponent's charging an attack, anticipating that you're going to try and hydro grab them, you could instead hydro shield. Even if they throw out an attack, Squirtle's sliding so fast that it'll hit your shield, but you'll slow down a little bit, but still move it past them, and then you can just grab at a shield. You'll just fly behind them invincibly, and then grab them, unless they threw out a grab anticipating that you're going to do that, in which case they play you too much. Alright, we're moving into tangential movement techniques off of Shellshift. These all involve wave dashing and sling jump. Combined, when you sling jump into a wave dash, it's called a wave sling. And it's a really important movement tool that you're definitely going to want to really get good at. And it's one of the main reasons I said, it is the reason, effectively, that I said you want to be able to practice sling jumping while immediately being able to hold back, like towards the direction you're jumping, in order to do the back roll. Because it will be really useful for learning to wave sling. Like that. Because basically, when I wave sling, I want to hold the direction that I'm intending to slide, so I don't stop the slide like that. Practicing sling jumps with the back roll technique is extremely useful for getting good at wave slinging. First off, just a general wave dashing technique, and this goes for every character. If you go into debug mode and you turn the ledge grab box on, that little, thing made out of lasers, you can basically tell when you're missing the window for your wave dash. And a wave dash, if no one's ever looked at it frame by frame, input jump, say I have Squirtle's a 4-frame jump window, he would jump from the air on this frame, but I don't want that to happen. I want to instead air dodge on that frame back into the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to hold direction and like that. That was a perfect wave dash. That's the kind of wave dashes you want. If you aren't hitting that window, as in you're not hitting air dodge soon enough after jump, then you'll see, like, if you do crappy wave dashes, you'll see that little ledge box pop up. Basically, that's telling you that you entered the air and you had an unoptimal wave dash, like you were getting air time before you air dodge back into the ground. So when you practice wave slinging and wave dashing in general, keep that box on so you know when you're missing your windows for perfect wave dashing. So as far as wave slinging, what is wave slinging? It's, here, let's do our frame 1 shell shift, and we're going to do a frame 1 sling jump. So we're going to hold jump on this frame, and Squirtle's going to slide for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if you wave dash on this frame, you will be doing a wave sling. So I will wave dash the direction I'm sliding right now. And that wasn't a full length wave dash, like I only went for the, I would say the normal little divot in the control stick to the diagonal bottom. But basically the utility of wave sling is in that you can, like if I'm running forward, I can wave sling to turn myself around while still moving forward. And other characters can do this, of course, but Squirtle actually gets, like a boost if he does it perfectly. It's a really great way, it's pretty much like the best way to go for the ledge hog. You can also just sling jump into ledge hog, like that, but that's a bit more of a commitment than just wave slinging into ledge hog. Also, the other form of wave sling is just it's just movement mind game kind of thing. It's a movement mix-up. Like, what I'm doing is I'm sling jumping, and then instead of sling jumping the direction I was going to sling jump, I wave dash back the other direction. It basically makes, because Squirtle moves so far during the jump squat, in 4 frames, that's quite actually a distance to go. He basically teleports to the left, and then if I wave dash, I immediately shoot the other direction. And it doesn't make your wave dash shorter. In fact, I think it can, I don't think it makes it longer, but it makes it, gives it this little jerk momentum motion, like that. And I use it to dodge attacks, and then immediately come in. It's pretty useful, and I would definitely recommend practicing it as a mix-up so you can just look fancy. And like as you move around and you get good at using both of these options,